Hello and welcome to an introduction to cryptography. In this video, we'll be discussing what cryptography is all about and we'll look at the common terminology that is used in cryptography. Later on in this video series, we'll look at modern day cryptosystems and how they operate, and we'll also look at some other interesting historical cryptosystem just so that we get a better understanding of cryptography in general. Now, first things first, what is cryptography? Now, cryptography is simply an area that is in between mathematics and computer science, which means it has two parts. Mathematics is there because it helps us to perform calculations on text for us to be able to encrypt it. So cryptography is all about sending text in a form that is hidden. And for us to be able to achieve that form, we have to perform calculations or mathematics on text, such as multiplication, addition, some bitwise exclusive OR operations, and many other mathematical operations, which we'll look at in later videos. Another part is computer science, and now computer science is simply the implementation of those crypto systems. In modern day society, cryptography is used in applications and computer networks, so that's where the computer science part comes in. Now, cryptography is basically made up of two words. The first word is crypto, which means secret, and the last word is graphy, which means writing. Collectively, it's secret writing, and when we're looking at cryptography, we're just looking at how we can send a message securely on an insecure channel. Now, with cryptography, you always assume that any communication channel is bound to have some vulnerabilities which somebody may be able to make use of to try to intercept or to gain access to whatever message you're sending each other. Now, if we look at this diagram to the right, we have two individuals sending messages to each other. The first one, let's call Bob, who's the sender, and the last one, who's receiving the message, we'll call Alice. Now, take note that I didn't just make up these names. These are the two most commonly used names in cryptography, and we'll be using them throughout this video and this video series. So when I say Bob, I mean the sender, and when I say Alice, what I mean by that is the recipient. Now, with crypto systems, when Bob is sending a message to Alice, first of all, this message has to be changed to a different form. For example, hello Alice has become X0AK3s, O, and all those other symbols. So Bob is able to change this message to a new form using this, which is known as a key. Now this process right here is the encryption process. And when Alice receives this message, she's able to change the message that she has received back to the original message, and this is known as the decryption process. Now both Bob and Alice are using two sets of keys to be able to change or manipulate text. Now this right here is the basis of cryptography. It's all about changing the messages into a different form so that you can enhance security when the message is being transported. Now if we look at this other diagram, this is simply an enhanced version of the original diagram, and in this diagram we're simply introducing a third party known as Eve. Now Eve is regarded as a third party interceptor, or somebody, an enemy who tries to gain access to the messages that you're sending, which are supposed to be confidential. So cryptography involves sending messages in a form that is hidden to the interceptor or attacker. What we mean by that is, since the message has been changed, even if an Eve comes in to try to intercept the message that they get is X0AK3. This message is meaningless to them. So they cannot be able to gain access to your information. They can't be able to change your information as long as your crypto system is secure. So these are the three names. We've added one new name. When I say Eve, what we simply mean is a third party interceptor. Now, let's move on to some of the common terms that are used in cryptography. And the first one is a plain text message. Now, plain text message is simply a message to be communicated. In the case of the previous diagram, our plain text message was hello Alice. Now, that's simply the message that Bob was trying to send to Alice. And then the next is a ciphertext message, which is simply a disguised version of the plain text, or the version after the message has been changed. And that new form, the X0AK3 or $, and all those other symbols, that was the ciphertext. It's the text after it has been changed. Now, the third is encryption, which is simply the process of turning plain text into ciphertext, which means on the sending side, Bob has to encrypt the message. And decryption is just the opposite, which involves turning ciphertext back into plain text, which happens on the receiving side, where Alice has to change the message back to the original form, and that's simply known as decryption. Now, the next term is encoding, which involves changing a plain text into a series of bits or numbers. Now, encoding happens before a message has been encrypted. Before a message can be encrypted, some encoding has to take place. A message could be changed to bits or numbers to facilitate mathematical operations. Like I said, one of the core elements of cryptography is mathematics, and it's hard for us to perform mathematics on text. For example, hello Alice, it is hard for us to change that or to perform some mathematical operation to be able to encrypt that to a different form. So what encoding would do, for example, we could change an A to become a 0, B to become 1, C to become 2, and Z to become 25. In so doing, a message such as hello becomes X4111114 using this encoding mechanism. And we can be able to perform mathematical operations on this new sets of numbers, which will help us to encrypt a message. Now, with encoding, there is nothing secret about encoding. What I mean by that is we are not trying to hide the message. We're simply changing it into a form that will help us to perform mathematical operations. Another thing that you have to know about encoding is that some cryptosystems encode by turning plain text into bits or bytes, such as 100100. For example, the advanced encryption standard may use or encode by changing text into a form of bits or bytes, and we'll look at all this in later videos. This this encoding mechanism has simply been used for its simplicity, right? Just for you to get a picture of what encoding is all about. After all, this is the first video. Now, let's continue with the common terms that are used. Another common term is decoding. So decoding simply means turning bits or numbers back into plain text. So it's simply the opposite of encoding. And the next thing we're looking at is a stream cipher. Now, a stream cipher operates on a message symbol by symbol or bit by bit. What I mean by that is when you're encrypting, there's different mechanisms of encrypting. So when you have a stream cipher, what it means is, let's say you have a message like hi with an E. So let's have hi with an E. What a stream cipher would do is it will encrypt each message symbol by symbol. So it will take H and maybe, let's say it will encrypt it to a plus. And then I could be encrypted to a U. And then E could be encrypted to a backslash or something like that. So each symbol or bits or letter is being encrypted at a time. The next one is a block cipher, which operates on blocks of symbols at a time. So let's try to extend this message. Let's say it's hi my name is, or let's just stop right here. So what a block cipher would do is it will operate on blocks of symbols. That means it will encrypt messages as blocks. For example, it could take a pair of letters, for example, my, and it could encrypt this my to something like, let's say, U backslash, right? But then if the message becomes, let's say, me, despite that we are still maintaining the M in this new message, but since it's being encrypted as a pair, you find that the ciphertext could be something completely different. So my was encrypted to U backslash, but then this could be something entirely different. Let's say an X and an L. So it's because the encryption is happening on blocks of symbols. So it's encrypting it as a block. If this were a stream cipher, which operates on a message symbol by symbol, most likely this M could still be encrypted to a U, but only the E could be encrypted to something else. So that's how a block cipher works. The next thing that we're looking at is a digraph. Now a digraph is simply a pair of letters. Like we saw in the previous example when we're encrypting N and A, M and Y, my, that's a digraph. So some cryptosystems will operate by encrypting letter pairs, and that's known as a digraph. And some cryptosystems could encrypt by triples of letters, and that's known as trigraphs. Like I said, a block cipher is not limited to two letters or two symbols. It could be three, it could be four, depending on the algorithm that the crypto system or the method of encryption is using. The next thing that we have to look at before we start looking at crypto systems is a transposition cipher. Now, a transposition cipher is an encryption mechanism which involves rearranging the letters, symbols, or bits in a plain text. What this simply means is, let's say if you have a message like hello, right? So our plain text message is hello. What a transposition cipher would do is it might encrypt by simply changing the order. So let's say it becomes something like O, E, L, H. So that's a transposition cipher, as silly as it looks, right? So modern day crypto systems won't usually encrypt like this. But then that's the point of a transposition cipher. It doesn't always work in this straightforward manner, as we'll see in later videos. And another example of a cipher is a substitution cipher. Now, a substitution cipher replaces the letters, symbols, or bits in a plain text without changing the order. What this means is if we have a message like, let's go back to the original message, hello. What a substitution cipher would do is it will simply replace these letters with new letters. So H could become plus, E could become V, L could become minus, and this other L will also become a minus if we're using a stream cipher, and this O could become, let's say, an R. So that's how a substitution cipher does. It will simply replace letters or symbols or bits in a plain text without changing the order, and we'll look at examples of those types of ciphers. Now, to continue with the common terms, the next term is a product cipher. Now, a product cipher simply alternates transposition and substitution. This means that it will use both transposition and substitution mechanisms of encrypting. So sometimes it will transpose and then it will perform some substitution, which means it's simply a combination of the two. Now, the next thing we're looking at is an algorithm. So an algorithm is a series of steps performed by a computer person to perform some tasks. What you have to know is when encryption is taking place, each cryptosystem follows a certain encryption algorithm. So first of all, you might have to encode into numbers, and then maybe you multiply or you shift letters in a certain manner, and that's the algorithm. So we'll look at different cryptosystems and the algorithms that are implemented by those cryptosystems. The next thing that we're looking at is a cryptosystem. I've been using the word cryptosystem throughout this entire video, so now it's time for us to find out what it is. So a cryptosystem simply consists of an enciphering algorithm and a deciphering algorithm. And examples of cryptosystems are RC4, DES, and AS, and we will look at all these cryptosystems in later videos. So what we mean by an enciphering algorithm is, if we go back to the original page, and let's just remove the Bob and Alice stuff. So when Bob is encrypting a message, Bob will use an enciphering algorithm. So an enciphering algorithm works on this part to encrypt it to this form. But when Alice receives the message, a deciphering algorithm works on this other part to change the message back to the original form. Which means if you are to use a successful crypto system, you need both of these algorithms, one of which will be implemented if you're sending a message, and one will be implemented when you're receiving a message. And this is collectively known as a crypto system, when you combine an encryption algorithm and a decryption algorithm. But sometimes the word cipher is used synonymously with cryptosystem, like I've been saying transposition cipher, substitution cipher, and all those other terms. So when I say cipher, I'm talking about cryptosystem, but then it's like a short way of saying it. The next thing we're looking at is symmetric key encryption. Now, symmetric key encryption requires a secret shared key where two users must agree on a key ahead of time. What this means is if you have a plain text message, and let's say on the sending side a key is acting on this plain text message, and this plain text message is being changed to ciphertext. Now we've already discussed what a plain text and ciphertext is. Now if Alice on the receiving end has to use the same key to change this ciphertext back to the original plain text, this is known as symmetric key encryption. I've just realized that I didn't talk specifically what a key is. So a key is simply a series of bits or a text. It could be as simple as a name, right? So that key can be used to encrypt something. So if a crypto system or an enciphering algorithm makes use of a key to be able to change it to a different form. So it just uses the key and insets it within its algorithm and will be able to encrypt the message. And if the same key has to be used on the receiving side to change the key back to the original plain text, that is known as a symmetric key cryptosystem. Now the next thing is this public key cryptosystem, where each user has an encrypting key which is published and a decrypting key which is not. So what this means is you have different sets of keys. So let's call this one key 1 and let's call this one key 2. Now this key 1 is known as a public key. So some websites like SSL, they may implement this type of crypto system, whereby if you're sending requests to a server, it is encrypted using a public key. So this public key is used to encrypt. But then only on the receiving side can it be decrypted successfully, because another key is used, and this key is known as a private key. So it's known as a private key. I don't have to write that down anyways, I just said it. So a private key is used to decrypt it. And we'll look at other crypto systems which implement both of this system in later videos. The next thing that we're discussing is the concept of cryptanalysis. Now, cryptanalysis is simply a process in which an enemy tries to turn ciphertext back into plain text. Now, Eve gets a hold of the message, assuming that she manages somehow to get a hold of the message that you guys were sending to each other, that Bob and Alice were sending. Now, Eve performs cryptanalysis to get back to the original play. If Eve were to successfully perform cryptanalysis, it means she has to get the key. So the easiest way to decrypt the message is to get the key. But then Eve doesn't have a message, so she'll probably an enemy will run different sets of algorithm to try different sets of keys, and that's the process of cryptanalysis. You're trying to get back to the original plain text, but then you do not have the key, which means you try different sets of keys, you perform different algorithms, and like I've been saying throughout this video, we'll look at all this in detail. Now, there are different types of crypto systems. Now, this section is just to give you a brief picture of how crypto systems have advanced. The first part is those that have been broken. So some crypto systems are old, and with the modern day computers, they are not very secure anymore. For example, the British Playfair cipher. In the past, people even used ciphers where they could just wrap text around cylinders to be able to encrypt it. And those are obviously crypto systems that have been broken. And there are other crypto systems that, like the RC4, which are no longer in wide usage because people have found easy ways to decrypt those messages or to perform cryptanalysis. With the modern day computers, it is very easy to break those ciphers, so they are no longer secure and they fall under this category. The next type of crypto systems is those that have not been yet analyzed, e.g. because they are new and not widely used. So if I came up with my own encryption algorithm, let's call it the crypto home algorithm, right? Because it is not widely used and it's not widely adopted, it will fall under this category. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is secure. It could not be broken simply because it is not widely used, right? But then that doesn't mean it is very secure. And the third part is those that have been analyzed but not yet broken. An example is the advanced encryption standard with different sets of keys. Of course, these days there are different variations of the advanced encryption standard, and we'll look at all those later on. So these crypto systems, despite that they have been analyzed and people know how they work, they have still not yet been broken. It's hard for somebody to perform cryptanalysis and to get back to a successful original plain text. So these are the three different types of crypto systems, just to give you a picture. Now let's look at the possible ways an enemy can turn plain text into ciphertext. The first way is to steal or purchase or bribe to get the key. Now this is the easiest way. Obviously, if you are to decrypt a message, the easiest way for you to manage to decrypt it is to just get a hold of the key. Now if you find a way to get a hold of the key, that's the easiest way that you can get back, that you can turn ciphertext back into plain text. So the title should read possible ways an enemy can turn ciphertext into plain text. Sorry about that. The next thing is to exploit sloppy implementation or protocol problems. So this may involve things like hacking, or if somebody used an obvious key like a pet name or your birthday, that's also part of sloppy implementation, and it could be easy for somebody to decrypt your message in that manner. And the third is cryptanalysis. Now we've already discussed what cryptanalysis is. Okay, now let's look at the goals of cryptography. Why do you have cryptography? Now, the first goal of cryptography is confidentiality. Now, with confidentiality, what we want is the message to be secret to all but Bob and Alice. So if you're using crypto systems, you are confident that the message that you're getting, only you, the sender, and the receiver know what the message is. For example, some applications like WhatsApp says end-to-end encryption, right? That means that when I send a message to you, you're confident that I am the only one who has access to the sending message, and you are the only one who has access to the receiving message. By that I mean that somebody else isn't able to intercept the message, and even if they are, they still won't be able to know what that message is. So that's confidentiality. As long as the crypto system is strong enough, this is one of the goals of cryptography, is to make sure that only the sender and the receiver have access. And the second goal is data integrity. Now with crypto systems, you're confident that the message that you have received is the original message. Data integrity simply means you're preventing a third-party interceptor from intercepting your message and trying to change the original messages. In the same way, if I get a message from you with cryptosystems, I'm confident that the message that I get is the actual message that you sent. It hasn't been altered in any way. And the third goal is data origin authentication. This simply means that if I get a message, I'll be able to prove that a message actually came from you. And if I get a message, sorry, I'll be able to know the origin of the message, such that this message came from Bob or this message came from Alice. So cryptography helps ensure that there is a strong way to prove the origin of an actual message. And the last goal that we're looking at for today is non-repudiation. Non-repudiation simply means that if, for example, if Alice receives a message from Bob, Alice cannot deny having received a message. And if Bob sends a message to Alice with cryptosystems, Bob cannot deny having sent the message. So cryptography kind of gives a way to prove that I actually sent a message, or I can prove that you are the one who actually sent the message, and you can prove that I received the message if cryptography is implemented. For now, this is all you have to know about the goals of cryptography. Next up, let's look at the aim of cryptography or cryptosystems in general. Now, the first aim is to make encryption and decryption easy for the prober users. Now, this is one of the complexities in cryptography. You're trying to make sure that the encryption should be easy. For example, I talked about WhatsApp. You do not even know that encryption is happening in the background. So most encryption mechanisms used in applications, whether websites or in computer networks, it should be easy for the prober users. The computer must be able to use its RAM or its CPU processing power to be able to encrypt it with ease, but then it should be hard for a third party intercept. So it must be complex enough that a third party interceptor, will not be able to know the message, but then it should be easy enough for the proper users to be able to encrypt and decrypt with ease. Now, but it is always wise to assume that the enemy will find out about the nature of the cryptosystem and will only be missing a key. And what we mean by that is, for example, if something is using an advanced encryption system standard, you always assume that an enemy knows what cryptosystem you're using. So a strong cryptosystem must be strong enough to withstand attacks, even though somebody knows what cryptosystem you're having. Even though somebody or a third-party interceptor is only missing a key, it must be hard for them to decrypt or to perform cryptanalysis. So having reached this far, this is the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and the next videos will be looking at other cryptosystems. You may like or subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.